guys, just want to go over some more ridiculous history and the lies they tell us about our past. I've head back to Edmonton, Alberta, and take a look at this really new city when it comes to cities, and we're going to look at some of the buildings that are probably not here, most of them, some of them are, but that were here around the turn of the century or the late 1800s. And this is just a little write-up about Edmonton, that around 1882 there was 200 people that lived here, and then these guys, Kenneth MacDonald and William Rowland, they claimed it, and it goes on and on. They're yachty, 3,000 people. Let's see what they're saying here. There's about 2,000 people in 1899, so around the time when most of these buildings were being built. There was anywhere, it depends, because there was a big upswing about 1915, and we got quite a few more people. So we're going to just look at the downtown area. So we're going to look at these buildings down here, and these are the buildings. Some of them are there, most of them aren't. So they're just saying the agency building. They're talking about this one, the Union Bank of Canada. But look at all the other buildings here. You can see they go on. See how they try to blank it out? This is really good representation. How they try to blank out so we can't actually see all the other buildings that actually are there. And take a look at that beauty. Let's see, can we make it larger? Yes, we can. Is it going to work? No. Not going to get any better than that. Let's look at the next building. And look at these. Like I said, this is around that time. Magnificent. And of course, look, can you see this in here? And let's make this larger if I can. You can see that there was something else in the sky. They blocked it out right in here. And doesn't this look like something you would see in England? And there's another beautiful building beside it and another one right there. So these are all, you can see this would be something we did, right? Parliament building or legislature building, you cannot forget this one. They said that they built at the same time that we had Fort Edmonton. Everybody was living in sticks. But they took the time and built this. And it's up on a hill, guys. Look at that. It's like I'm in Rome. Arlington building. I think this one is still, but you know what they've done? They even this one probably had more, but they'll take off all of this. So it will just look like a really ugly building, and they'll brick out some of the windows and they'll put some stupid old signs on it. This is a great picture here. Armstrong Block. Look at all of this. You can see all of these old ancient buildings, and they just go on and on. All of these are here. Like this probably, there's a cart here. Mostly all carts. Look at that. There's like a Model T. That early part. And here, there's what they do. They take out the windows, they brick them up, and they put this stuff on here. So they've already done this by this time. And look at this beautiful building in the back. Probably a church. But all of these buildings were here prior. And the brick. The brick building. This was probably one that they sold furniture from. And look at it, how exquisite it is. And then they put this stuff up, right? Smoker building. Look at these two. They would have been up here. Those probably are not new. There's the Parliament building, or legislature. Okay, so they're saying this was one. Look at that. Canada Parliament building. There you go. What else are they saying in there? Well, it's hard to see what they've got there, but the numbers are, it's 2, and then I can't see it, and it looks like maybe a 1910. I see. So I want to talk about this building, the McLeod building, just right in front of the one that we were just talking about. And I want you to take a look at the landscape here. This building here was said to have been built 3 years after the one we just looked at. This one was supposed to be, let's get a closer look. That's what we were just looking at, right? The Parliament building, which is right beside the McLeod building. And this was supposed to be built 3 years later. But let me show you a picture of this building. So I just wanted to show you this picture of this isn't that building we're talking about, in the other building. This is what that whole landscape would have looked like at one time. This says it's 1946. So it says the post office, the McLeod building. So all of these buildings were here originally, and this is the McDonald's Hotel. I've talked about that many times. So the railroad goes, these buildings are all over. You can find them all over. We still have a lot of them. They don't use them, of course. They're just, usually they're part of a park now. Oh, it's neat, the clothing and stuff. Everybody's wearing. And such sharp pictures, too, considering this had to have been, look at that. I don't know, 1914, 1920 at the most. Courthouse, look at this magnificent Roman structure, or Greek, or whatever you want to call it. They give them different names, make us think that it should be someplace else, but no, it is right here in Edmonton, Alberta. I don't even know if this building is still here. So I'm looking at the post office that they tore down because, they built it in 1910, and why would they ever keep it something like that? I mean, it's gaudy, right? Got to tear it down in a couple of years. So they tore this building down. Look at, there's a guy standing up over here. And look at how the road is. Piles of stuff all over. And these windows, you got to always be suspicious. We do usually build in a straight line. We flatten the earth, and when we build it, we don't usually build in a slant down. And this is the building I think that we were looking at, but look at this. Excuse me. This is something I want to show you that they do. They did some photoshopping. A whole bunch of people got together and they photoshopped a lot of these pictures. And this is what I'm talking about. See how this is all cut out? Because somebody was just going, with the tool and erasing it. And they erased. And so then you see this kind of stuff because they're erasing at this. And this is the evidence right here. And so that makes me suspicious as to what are they covering up. So what's over here that they don't want us to see? Obviously, there's more buildings. There's more structures in this one. But this definitely is early photoshopping. Not a very good job, but look at this building again. Another one. And this one, it's hard to even see. I think it's 1910. That's as close as I can say. And this is what it looked like in 1910 when they said it was built. and then they had a need to tear it down and put up something much nicer, of course. And there's so many buildings like this, private residences all over Edmonton that are still, some of them are still here. Now, isn't this interesting? There are buildings like this. I think Extreme Reality Check did one about the buildings that have no windows that are built all over in every single city, but most of them tower. They're kind of creepy. Edmonton Public Library, I think we saw that. It is McDonald's Hotel back there, and there's a drop-off right there. Yep, that's what we need for a library building, of course, always. So they're saying that the Edmonton Public Library opened, they're not saying that it was built in 1923, but they're saying they destroyed this building in 1968. And this is the building that they said they built in 1923, and it is right beside the McDonald Hotel. That's what they're telling us. Hudson Bay Store, there you go. Still a brick building. Gee, that's got the bowler hats, and people are interesting too, eh? Look at that. They're going around with horses, and they're building all of this with 2,000 people. I'm amazed at how talented they are. I think up until some point when they say some of these buildings, there was up to, I don't know, about 50,000 people that lived in the Edmonton area, but still, come on, that's all they would be doing. I was in the building trade for so many decades, me and my husband. I've got so many years behind us of building, to think that when you go and read the write-up, the ludicrous write-ups about these buildings, you know, how this certain person just, you know, had this inkling to build it this way, and to, you know, he loved the long structures of the poles, and it's like crazy stuff like that you start hearing. Or he won the contract from another, you know, and yet you'll find that they'll use the same person over and over and over again to build these buildings with these columns. Look at this, the way that, isn't that interesting? Let's see if we can get closer. Get the light bulb on that. That's really cool. And the tower, and the tech is still on it. Yeah. This is all that little tiny area, the downtown area. Absolutely gorgeous, so beautiful building. And McLeod Building, I'm not sure if it is, but it might be. You know, like I said, they will take off all this. They'll just shade it, so it will just like plain and boring. And they'll paint them, and they'll do stupid things. See this one? This is one that almost looks like they have started taking it off, is what I'm talking about. And so they would have taken off any design, and now they're going to slap up some advertisement there, make it look cheap. But it probably looked more like this when it started. You know, had more of a design put on it, like that. So again, here we are in Edmonton again, and we're fashionable back then. Boy, we were fashionable. About that one. That's cool. And they're going to say, oh, Salvation Army. There's something odd about that building. I don't know what it was used for, but it obviously had a torrent for a bell. Bells were very important. Now, isn't that a fun picture? It's called the Second House. The original home of Richard and Anne II and their family. Okay. And that would have been there too. So you can see that Edmonton was very mud was mud flooded. Because, I'm sorry, but you don't do all of these buildings and then have mud everywhere and not do the streets. It's the first thing you do when you're building a subdivision. I've built many subdivisions. I've worked in many subdivision new home construction, and they always start with the infrastructure first. They don't put the infrastructure in later. They put this stuff in. They put in electricity, they put in the piping, they put in the roads, they put in everything first. And then you go, because then they have the design of the pocket that you're going to put it in. It's not the other way around. I can't imagine ever building the other way around and having it be successful. So here's a nice look of the block down Edmonton, downtown Jasper. Would have been, I don't know what years those would have been. They look like they'd be in the 40s. It says wartime. Oh, 1930s. I'm saying that this is. But of course, they tried to give us different dates. These buildings are there in 1880. So this is down Boyle Street. Again, it's saying that they built it in 1912. And I think 1912 we're about. And this was supposed to be a theater. Oh, how it's dilapidated, eh? But look at all the other buildings that are sitting beside it, too. So it's not just this building. It's this building, too. And that, if that's connected to that. Yeah. Now, every city, I think, has one of these. Aren't they the most interesting architecture? We still have this one still up. They've changed it. It doesn't quite look like that. They always do. And there we go. Look at that one, too. Mud flood. You see how the windows are lower? You don't do that either when you're building. You don't build on a slope. You always build on a flat surface, and you make the ground around it level. You just don't build on a slope like that. Northwest Mounted Police. And isn't that stunning castle? Did you know Edmonton, Alberta, just sleepy Edmonton, had castles? And we have tons. It's hard to get a good view of Edmonton Garrison today because there's so many other things around it, but there is the castle. You know, our history is such a lie. They lied to us about everything. This is not anything what they have told us. Or this really is, can you imagine? This is Calgary. Do not believe anything that they tell us in the history books. We are not, our world, our history is completely not what they told us. And like I said, they wipe it all out, but you can see some of the other, but they wipe it out so you can't see the massive mounts. They found this place or they conquered it. I'm assuming they found it after a disaster and started moving people in. That's usually what they ended up doing. Like the railroad was, just an excuse for digging out so that they can use it, because most of the buildings would have been surrounded by mud because something disastrous happened. And it was just mud. Everything was mud. Every building, every older picture that you get, there's no trees, there's no grass, there's nothing. There's just mud. There's mud everywhere. And why would they start? Just come into a place that has nothing, no living thing or anything, but they're going to come in and start building all of these magnificent structures. Did we look at this one? Because you can see so many back buildings on this picture. Look at how many. This is Calgary. It says it right there, 8. (1910) Jasper Avenue, electrified streetcars. Population 23,000. But they were laying tracks and they had electricity. in a population of 23,000. Take a look at all these gorgeous buildings. This would have been pretty much what you're looking at. Also, look at all of the lights that somebody had to go, the gas lights, although they had electricity. But if you watched Martin Linkeys, you will find out about how they've gaslighted us and made us think that they had to manually have somebody going up on these poles every day, morning and night, to light and extinguish them. Bunch of bull hockey. This is Jasper Avenue. Just to give you an idea, look at that. This was like, this picture would have been taken. This stuff was all here. Like I said, this isn't the oldest picture of this, but it's a really good one to really show the massive amounts of buildings that were here that we did not build. Because you got to remember, look at all these columns and everything like that. You've got to be able to have the manufacturers set up. You've got to have glass manufacturers. You've got to have brick manufacturers. You've got to have somebody cutting the wood. You've got to have somebody. There's so many different pieces to building to say that 2,000 people could have done what you're looking at is absolutely ludicrous. And we never would have thought that before if we just never knew this information. We didn't really understand where all these buildings came from. We just assumed they built them, and we have no clue. But they obviously have not built this. We did not build this. We inherited this, or at least as far as it goes, it's not truthful. You know, how long we've been here, or whatever it is, it's just not truthful. Again, look at all the buildings at that time. And this little castle here, this castle, and look at this building. Again, they're all in the same age, this one. In the back of some of these buildings. So that is what's going on here. We are living in a lie of what actually the world was like. I could go on and on and on for the buildings that are in this area that are extraordinary. And you know what? Isn't that funny? They always have a fire in every city. They burn down buildings. They burn buildings. Always. That's how they get rid of half of them. That's what they do to them. They burn them. Well, they don't really burn them down. They obviously do so. They burn everything on the inside, and then they have an excuse to tear them down because they never wanted them. They don't want us to have the memory of the past. But they didn't get rid of all the pictures now, did they? Look at some of these buildings. Come on, guys. Look at this. Look at these. These are schools now. These are designated for schools, what you're looking at down here. And these ones all stand. These are colleges and schools. I went to one that was like that. Crescent Heights High School. Looked like this one right here. Because they had those kind of... We all went to schools like this because we could. Because there were so many buildings like this that they had to use them for something. And they had to tell us that they built them. You know, at the same time, all of these buildings, all of these schools, all of these churches, all these buildings were built within a 20-year period with a population less than 50,000 at the top, 200 at the least. Look. 200 at the least, and typically around 15,000, but they did this. Look at this one. This is a hotel, a really, really luxurious hotel. You can go there now, but I don't even know if you can get into the lobby, if they'll even allow you to get into the lobby unless you have a gold card of some sort. Like it's pretty posh. But just an example of lies that they teach us go on, take a look and start looking into some of these buildings. Look at the age, look at what they're telling us, who built them, see how many of the same architects built the same ones. Now, isn't that an odd building? That's very odd. Let's see what it says here. My eyes are not that good, but something Alberta. Sorry, guys. Look at that. That's an odd building. That's an odd building. Yep, that's what they were doing. They were renovating these. They were digging them out when they came here because a lot of it was mud flooded. And the churches are magnificent here. This was they trying to say it was a building of our legislature building. That looks like a disaster zone, not a building. That does not look like a construction zone. That looks like a demolition zone, by the way. Or just cleaning up what was happening here. What got knocked down here got destroyed. There truly was a destruction that happened all over the earth. The destruction wasn't just mud, it was fire from the sky, a lot of burning. So anyways, I guess I'm going to leave you guys. I could go on forever. The amount of houses, I've been collecting them and collecting them and collecting them from this area. They just go on because they lied to us and we didn't build this. And I don't know how to say that anymore. Your reasoning, you decide what this is all from and where this all came from. I have my theory. What I believe is what we're looking at, and I'll leave it at that. But I think what we're looking at is something very special in the past that I think that we're right about to come back to. And this is what they tell us, that the world was like always, except for just these wooden structures. Nothing good, nothing to see here, guys. The Fairmont Hotel in Edmonton, Alberta. There is so little information on this. I've been searching for days and days, and it's really, you can only find a couple of little write-outs. One says that it's got 16 floors. Another one says that it has 11 floors. And this magnificent castle was built in 4 years, or so they like to tell us. Another interesting thing about the Edmonton area, and this is not just about the McDonald Hotel, but the pedway system that goes underground all over the place. And I had to go back to 1991 because they didn't show that the pedway system went to the McDonald Hotel, which it does in 91. In the later ones, they do not show that. So there's a big tunnel system that goes all under Edmonton downtown. And the Edmonton pedway system connects to more than 40 buildings in the downtown area. This was as far as I'm concerned, this was a tunnel system that was there, and we found it. And now we're connecting different systems, and they've changed it around. It depends on the decade.